Barack Obama's so-called health reforms in the US were one of his biggest policy initiatives. Vested interests, and not just the ideologically opposed, Republicans battled openly and behind the scenes to stop his health bill aimed at giving 46 million citizens health care. Joining me from Paris now is political analyst and star program host from Press TV, our guru, Max Keiser. Max, welcome back. It's terrific to have you on The Real Deal. Now, it wasn't just big bucks trying to stop the healthcare reform. To my astonishment, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm an older man than you, I'm behind the times, there was even some virtual money being deployed. Tell us about this, because you have a real basis in this virtual money, having virtually invented it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's right, George. I have the patent, the Keiser patent on the virtual specialist technology, which is the key for virtual currencies. And what we have here is a case of Facebook, which is a new social networking site that is getting involved in political corruption. They're allowing their site to be used to sway this healthcare debate in the U.S. by allowing the healthcare industry to bribe people on Facebook using a virtual currency. Now, remember that Facebook is 300 million strong. There are more people on Facebook than live in the United States of America. They are becoming more politically influential than the Republican National Committee or the Democratic National Committee. They're becoming a huge political force. They're scheduled to go public on the exchange in 2010, making the founder an instant billionaire. And, of course, they can use that insider stock now to buy influence in Washington, which is in the interest of technology companies, the copyright industry, and, of course, the healthcare industry. But to get specifically what's going on here with the virtual currency are that within these social networking sites like Facebook, there are economies. There's an economy called Farmville, which has 60 million people raising a virtual farm, and they're raising virtual raspberries and virtual chickens. And they use both real, so-called real money, like the U.S. dollar, to buy items, and then they swap and change, and they exchange for virtual currency, which is at the command and control of the technologists at Facebook. And there's a great interplay now between the virtual currencies on the internet and, let's say, the Federal Reserve Bank in Washington, which if you think about it, the U.S. dollar is nothing more than a virtual currency because it is a fractional reserve banking system, and it is a fiat currency system. And the way that money is created in the U.S. economy is really by Wall Street allowing people to borrow hundreds of billions of dollars to make acquisitions. And that's how currency is created in America. It's not issued by the government. It's not collateralized by anything like gold. It's a fiat currency. It's a virtual currency. And now we're seeing that model end up on the internet. And we're seeing the same political corruption we saw in the analog world in Washington, and the way that the healthcare industry has corrupted Washington to make healthcare expensive in America. Now they're using the virtual currency in the virtual world and the social networking sites to corrupt the political processes on the internet. And of course, you're not going to see much regulation against Facebook because Facebook, as I said before, is scheduled to go public in 2010, which means instant millionaires and instant billionaire status for the founders. And it's yet another way that the economy in America is controlled by fiat currency and Wall Street, and now virtual Wall Street, to totally override the democratic process completely.
Well, I mean, this is art imitating life. I take your point that the dollar, and indeed the pound for that matter, is itself a virtual currency of sorts. But at least if you go into a restaurant or a shop or get into a taxi, the driver or the shopkeeper or the waiter will accept your dollar bill. What can you do with virtual currency?
Well, you can get a swipe card that downloads your virtual currency on a virtual currency exchange. There are virtual currency exchanges set up on the internet. So if I'm on one of these sites and I make, let's say, $1 million Linden dollars, which is the currency on Second Life, a virtual world, I can download it to my swipe card or my Visa card, and I can use it to buy cab fare in London. And the way that these virtual currencies are monetized are by viewing ads online, which is a monetary event, which accrues value to the virtual currency. Plus, people are actually using their slave wages that they're making on the UK economy or the US economy, and they're actually giving it to these virtual economies in the hopes of growing virtual farms or virtual stock exchanges, or the company that I created, the Hollywood Stock Exchange, is a virtual exchange based on movies and stars. So you're converting all of your interest in Hollywood into a virtual Hollywood dollar, which you can try to increase in value, which you can then download using your swipe card and then use in the real world. So the membrane between the analog world, or the UK pound, and let's say a Linden dollar, a Hollywood dollar, or a Facebook dollar is becoming quite porous. And as the economy collapses around the world, more and more people are becoming addicted to subsistence web surfing, to try to spend as many hours a day as they can on the internet to make $1 or $2 to buy a meal. And this is the new slave class in America and around the world, are the cyber slaves.
I'm absolutely astounded. What can you eat from a virtual farm? What's the point of a virtual farm?
It's all about the way the economy has grown for the past 20 or 30 years. In other words, in the U.S. economy, for example, it's all based on greed and addiction and cheap money. That's why interest rates are at almost 0%, which is about the same that you would charge if you're getting virtual currency in the virtual world. They're actually competing with each other. That's why interest rates are so low, is because they want to flood both the UK economy and the US economy and all these economies with as much of this currency as possible to get people clicking. And people spend hours every single day. When you're spending hours and hours every single day in a virtual slave state, all of those ads that you're viewing are being sold by advertisers. Or in this case, it's being used by the healthcare lobby to influence outcome. So the healthcare lobby, which is against affordable healthcare in America, is using Facebook and bribing Facebook users with their own virtual currency to get people to send letters to Congress saying that they don't want healthcare in America. They prefer to be slaves in America. And they're buying into it.
Unbelievable. I'll tell you what, Max, they need to get out more. They need to get away from that computer and get out more. I look forward to seeing you in London. Max Keiser, our guru in Paris. Thanks very much.